Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Game Develop Repeat. I am your host, Chris, and I've been struggling to put this episode together. To be completely transparent, I have been re-recording the first 5 minutes of this episode for a long time now because it's a topic that's important to me, and I've been trying to approach it from so many different angles. And I feel like it's an important and exciting topic, and I want to convey that to you. So at this point, I'm just going to convey it the best I can. And I hope that it is meaningful, and I hope that it is in some way impactful or inspirational or helpful to you. But there's only so much I can do, and I have to just accept that and make this episode. So this episode is going to be about dreams. It's been on my mind for a while now. I have a ton of notes on a whiteboard about my indie dreams. I want to talk about the dream of being an indie game developer. I want to talk about past dreams. I want to talk about what it is that appeals about it to me. And I want to maybe inspire you to explore what it is that you're deeply passionate about and what part of it you're passionate about. And it's just going to be a difficult episode for me to figure out how to record, but I definitely want to share it with you. So here we go. What is it that actually appeals to me about being an independent game developer? I think the number one thing that gets me is I have these moments of, I guess, creative inspiration might be the word. I was looking through some note cards and post-its that I had written that are just like game ideas, right? Just like concepts for games. And most of them I looked at and I was like, oh, okay. And then every once in a while I would look at one and I would go, ooh, that's good. And I would be like, I want to make that. I want that to exist. That's what it is. I look at something and I go, I want that to exist. I want to play that game. I want that to be here. And then I start thinking about how to make it. And then I usually, this is the trap I fall into. I overwhelm myself and I go, I'm not ready to make that. But there's like a big, cool idea that I'm excited about. There's a lot of stuff where I'm like, I just want to bring this into the world. That's the dream. The dream now is I want to bring this into the world. There's a lot of little sub-dreams and stuff that are connected to it. There's stuff where I'm like, oh, being an indie game developer might be convenient for my lifestyle because I can live wherever I want, and I happen to want to live in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State, which is a great place for game developers to live because there's a ton of them out there, right? There's a ton of game dev jobs out there in general. I'm like, that would be great. I love the nature out there. I visited Seattle and it's a phenomenal city. I'd love to live out there, right? So I look at stuff like that and I'm like, what a cool little sub goal that just slots neatly into the whole game development thing. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. So, sorry, if you're like a hiker, if you're like a nature person, man, I mean, this is not like a well-kept secret, but Olympic National Park, whew, that's a good national park. That's some stuff, man. That is an incredible park. Anyway, so that's part of the dream. It's just like I see stuff that I want to make, and I'm like, I want to make it. Or not see, I think of things that I want to make, and I'm like, I want to make that. Or I see some game and I go, oh, I kind of want it to just be a little like, what if we did this? Like, what if a twist on this game? Wouldn't that be interesting? And then the lifestyle stuff too. And I also think about the idea that if I have a pretty successful game, I can really take the pressure off. Like if you get a really successful game, it's like, okay, I can kind of chill a little bit and work on my next game without having all this pressure behind me. Ideally, like that's like smash hit situation, right? Like fair enough. But it is a thing out there. It's something you dream about, right? It's one of those things where you go, "Oh, that'd be cool if that happened." At the same time, so I'm talking about all this. I think the most productive that's a weird framing, isn't it? The dreams I've had that have led to me making things, that have led to me actually pursuing the dream, have been like kind of vague. Like me making a platformer. I made a platformer, finished it, all that stuff, right? That happened as a result of me just wanting to keep exploring something. It was like a really good quest in a game where you don't really know the end game of the quest. You don't know how it's going to end, but you want to keep finding out and you want to keep moving forward. And once it starts to take shape, you get to this point where you've met the big bad evil guy in the quest line and you're like, "Oh, I got to beat him." That was me making my first game. It was like I was exploring, I was exploring, I was exploring. I met the evil guy and I was like, "Oh, maybe we'll run into him some more." And then I keep running into him and then I'm like, that's me discovering the game I want to make and then making the game, right? So uh that is very different from approaching creating a game from a perspective of here's this idea and it's fully formed in my head, allegedly, and now I'm gonna make it, right? Like there's a different feeling there, and I guess what I'm getting at is I want my dreams to be vague. I want my dreams to have wiggle room. I want my dreams to be useful and attainable. And the more specific they get, the less attainable and useful they become, and the more rigid they are. And the harder it is to pursue them in this like fluid and beautiful, creative way. I love a dream that you can, you know what? Here's a good analogy. And I'm sorry to use a dating analogy. I feel like dating analogies are a little weird, but I'm going to use it. If you imagine your perfect partner down to the letter and then you ignore anything that is not that exact partner, you're in for a rough ride, buddy. You're going to have a real rough time finding that partner. Because then you might find them and you might find we don't even have chemistry. Okay, well, never mind, right? Alternatively, if you have some like general direction that you're moving in and you've got some clear hard red flags that you go, okay, that's not acceptable, we're not going down that path, then you're going to manage to avoid partners that are horrible for you and move towards partners that are great for you, and you'll get to know them and you'll learn more about these people and find your perfect partner, right? So to speak. Now, to draw an analogy with game development, which is maybe the weirdest way for me to start my new year, is comparing game development to dating. But to draw that analogy to game development, if you think you know exactly what a game's design is going to be and you've locked it in and you're committed to it really early on, you're probably missing out on a lot of cool opportunities. And if you think you know exactly where a dream is going to lead you and what the end state of that dream is, probably the same deal. I found myself wondering what the purpose of a dream is, because we'll hang on to them. We'll grasp a dream and we'll say, well, this is where I'm headed. This is what's going to happen. This is where we're going. What is the benefit of grasping onto a dream versus moving in a general direction? What is the purpose of a very specific concrete dream? Is it a hope thing? I think hope is super important, and I think it might be related to hope. I think it's also just giving yourself a direction. I think it's giving yourself a plan. I think it's giving yourself a concrete path to follow. But sometimes you run into that situation where somebody has a dream, but they're not taking action on it. And sometimes we do that to ourselves. I've done that. And it's curious because then at that point, what is it? I'm sure it's serving some purpose. This feels like the kind of thing to ask like a psychologist. My instinct is that it's some kind of like a hope thing, but to not pursue it, but to constantly have it in your head. Because I've done that before. I did that with music. I was like, I'm going to be so great at the euphonium, which was my instrument. It's like, I'm going to be so great at this. I'm going to be the best. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to be one of the best in the world. I had a whole thing. It was weird. It was intense. To have that, but then not really pursue it. Like, why did I do that? I think it was a lot of hanging on to something, having a goal, and kind of having something to hang my identity on. Like, it was like going, well, I'm going to be this, so I'm pretty great. I think there was a lot of that. Of just like, well, I'm gonna accomplish this, so I'm gonna be great. So I think maybe this is the part of the episode where I learn a lesson from my past and I remind myself that the whole game development thing, my worry is that I look at all of the stuff I'm working on. It's like, I made a game, I'm doing a podcast, I've got stuff going. I worry that it becomes, oh, well, I'm gonna succeed at game development, so I don't need it. I'm fine. I don't even need to put in the work anymore. It'll happen eventually, and then just like start being super lazy and like hang my hat on this idea. First off, I don't want my identity to be one thing. I like lifting weights. I like going out in the woods. I like playing music. I like drawing things. I'm really, really bad at drawing things, but I like it. I like all these things. I don't want to just be a game developer, but I want to commit a lot of time and effort to game development. So there's that whole weird identity balance, right? Do your dreams turn into your identity? I apologize if this podcast is a little what's the word, disoriented tonight. I literally spent 5 hours recording this episode because I've had so much trouble getting my thoughts into words on this topic. Because it's just not as clearly structured for me as other episodes. But do the things that you chase fervently become so central to you, like naturally? Do other people think the way I do about dreams? Are other people like this where they just constantly have some dream that they're pursuing? Do the people who succeed at these big, massive goals even have them in mind to begin with? Like, everybody is like, set a goal and chase it. But then I look at these success stories and I'm like, the guy who made Stardew Valley, he started that as a portfolio project, and then he just kind of got carried away, right? And I look at the episode I did last week where I talked about the Norp epilogue. That was like a game he made for his girlfriend, and then he just kind of kept going with it. And then I look at these stories and I'm like, are we sure that it's about setting a goal and not just about doing something cool for someone? Like, when people say set a goal, all right, and I'm going to pop off on this, I'm sorry, but it's happening. When people say set a goal, are they trying to say pick a cool thing that you want to do? Because when I hear somebody say set a goal, I'm hearing like, you need to have a plan and you need to decide that this is what you're going to be. Like, I hear it in this very like, I don't know what the word is for it. I hear it in this very like, you must achieve. And I feel like it might just be pick a thing to like do that's kind of fun, right? Like, maybe it's just make a cool project and then see where it takes you. Is that not setting a goal? Is the goal not just make a cool project and see where it takes you? I should just speak for myself. Why do I overcomplicate setting a goal and have it be like, you will become the wielder of the One Ring. Like, why do I set this like impossible, crazy task of like, okay, well, all you're just gonna have to unite every nation on Earth. Like, I feel like set a goal. I don't think I'm making my point clearly at this point. I think I'm walking in circles a little bit. I think set a goal doesn't necessarily mean create some big ambitious thing. I don't think it has to be huge. I think it's just make something cool and then good things will come from it, right? Like everybody's like, "Oh, if you like if you want to accomplish great things, you have to set huge goals." Maybe not, dude. Like maybe somebody give me some input on this. I don't know. I'm not convinced because I think that's crushing. And I think if you're in a creative field, I think setting huge goals is crushing. I think setting fun projects is great and then they can turn into things. But like huge goal, like I'm going to make a platinum album. No, stop. Just make good songs. God. And I'm saying this to myself so aggressively because I'm so tired of this voice in my head that is like, make a great game. I'm like, no, have fun making a game. Just make some cool stuff. And it's like, dreams, chase these dreams. I'm like, but yes, okay, look, I want to follow my dreams. I don't want to let my dreams be dreams. I want to like do it in the words of Shia LaBeouf. I want to do it. I want to get there. I want to get it done. But also, I got to enjoy it, right? Like I fully recognize that it's going to be difficult. Fully recognize that it's all going to have struggle involved and it's going to be painful at times and there's going to be really tough moments, but like I can't just I gotta enjoy it, you know? It's not this isn't like meant to be horrible. Nothing in I'm popping off. It's past midnight. It is officially New Year's Day. I've been recording for too long. We're going. Nothing in life is meant to be freaking horrible, all right? None of it's meant to be like, oh, you have to struggle really hard and it's going to be terrible and to set you set your goals so high and then it's horrible and difficult and then one day you get there and your body is broken and you can't enjoy anything anymore, but you did it. No, dude. The goal can just be, this is the next step. And then, oh, here's the next step. And then here's the next step. And then here's the next step. Right? Can't it be like that? Is that too much to ask? Is it too much to ask to just go, I want to create some cool stuff and share it with people. I want to create some really cool, really genuine, like enjoyable, easy to connect with human stuff. And other people can connect with it and we can all have a good old time and they can be like, oh, hey, thanks for that. By the way, here's this so you can buy food. That's not crazy, is it? Right? Like, can't I just make a game and then have enough money for food and housing? That should work, right? Eventually. But then, there's like the market is flooded and all this stuff. But I don't like even saying I'm going to make a good enough game to make a living off of. I think you can hit that standard without having this mindset of like this horrific thing that you see where people are like, oh, you gotta wake up at never mind, I'm not gonna go in that hard on all this stuff, but like, the like overly motivational, aggressive, militaristic, like, if you're not suffering through every moment of your life, then you will never succeed. I hate it so much. You don't have to suffer through every moment of your life to succeed. I'm sick of it. I'm done listening to it. I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. There have to be ways to succeed while being happy. It's just part of it. You got to be able to succeed without destroying your mind, body, and soul. I'm convinced of it. And I'm sure many of you already know this, and I'm sure this is just like me preaching to myself, but I've just heard so much of that nonsense in my life. And there's just this like overwhelming feeling of like everything has to be so difficult and you have to reach the absolute peak of everything if you're ever going to succeed. Like I have had people when I was making my first game, and I'm hopefully the guy who said this to me never hears this episode, but I had a buddy who was like, "Oh, is it going to be the next Stardew?" And I was like, "No, it's not. It's my first game. It's not going to make money. It's just a game. I'm making a game. It's going to be pretty good. I'm going to be proud of it, and I'm hoping that the people I share it with will get some enjoyment out of it." And he's like, "Yeah, but is it going to be the next Stardew?" I'm like, "No." No, it's not. Chill out, people. Like, oh my God. Make cool things and let it be a progression, right? Like, anyway, I'm sorry. That is a very intense way to start the new year. This is what happens when I take this long to record. I'm projecting the fact that I had difficulty making this episode. I think that's probably part of this rant. Anyway, let's just go to the last segment of this episode before I continue screaming about cultural nonsense. All right. I took a second to take a deep breath, cool off a little bit, grab a nice cold seltzer. I listened back to the recording and decided whether or not to keep it in the episode. I am keeping it, as you can probably tell. Spoilers, it's still there. I got pretty aggro. I got pretty mad, right? I was pretty furious, actually. I don't know if it comes across or not, but I was in like full on like rant mode. I think it comes across. I just like I think I say a bunch of stuff in there that I don't even think is true or that I agree with. I think ultimately what it comes down to is I'm mad at my own expectations for myself. That's what that was. That whole chunk. And that's why I'm leaving it, because I think it's valuable to see that and to hear that and to go, "Oh, this is a game developer, this is a creative person getting really frustrated with their expectations for themselves. This is what that looks like in this instance." And maybe you can relate to it, right? Or maybe not. I don't know, but I'm going to leave it. I think it's probably a bad idea. I think leaving it's probably a bad idea. But I'm going to, because I don't know, man. Screw it, right? Like, it just seems relatable. So there it is. There's me whining about the world for a little. I don't have questions for you this week. I do have an update. I did pull off my challenge this past week, which was just to open up Godot every day. I did end up doing like a couple hours of programming a few different days, and then I had like one day where I just opened it and closed it. I think that was today. Today was the day. So I just opened it and shut it, and I was like, okay, that's today. Like, fine. I didn't do Christmas Day, so then I have to do tomorrow. So I'll do tomorrow, and then we'll be good, and that'll be a full week. And I guess I'll just keep going with that rather than issue a new challenge. I'll just keep going with that until next recording session, and then see if I can come up with something cool, like a fun little challenge. Man, that's it for the week. That's it. That's all I got. Happy New Year. Sorry to give you a grumpy episode I wish I was in a better mood today, but I can't fake a good mood for an episode. I just can't. Not to this degree. Definitely not. So this is what you got. But hey, thanks for listening, and yeah, hell yeah. Have a good one. Have a good week. Make some stuff. Have fun, or don't make some stuff. Do your thing. You do you. But have a good week. Have a good freaking New Year, and I'll see you in the next episode.